Hey everyone, and welcome to Beaming Notes. And today we're going to take a look at the critical analysis of the poem Last Ride Together by Robert Browning. Critical analysis. This poem is witness to the fact that the outstanding thing about Browning as an artist is the variety and originality of his poetic forms. Browning may be described as the father of modern experimental verse. It is Browning's love of realism which makes him give a hearing even to a rascal as the lover is. Prisoners, cheats, murderers are all given a hearing. But these characters are never given any name so that they could be generalized. As Chesterton says, Browning does not take up ordinary situations or obvious morals. He rather shows us the crisis of a life of the individual may depend on his reaction to it. Again and again, Browning selects and holds out into clear relief the important moment which decides the spiritual basis of the soul involved and settles the patterns of its future existence. In The Last Ride Together, Browning selected the moment which is the result of quick thought or sudden passion and results in some action breaking the commonplace course of life. The first few stanzas of the poem show the perfection of the dramatic monologue. Browning was a great artist, incomparably greater than his more popular contemporaries. His love poems and imaginative representation are in this form. A dramatic monologue is an exacting form and requires great skill. It has to tell a story, and that too, not at great length. The character of the speaker must be portrayed distinctly and vividly and should be dramatically appropriate to the theme. The thought of the poem should appear as a natural expression of the characters. Browning loves to work on the great moment, but the movement in the monologues is not through action but in thought. This monologue too shows Browning's knowledge of human nature, especially its dark recesses and pitfalls. The more tangled the character, the more passionate and stormy the experience. The more labyrinthine the story, the greater was the zest with which Browning approached them. Kazamian calls his monologues studies in practical psychology. His characters of dramatic monologues are like the character of Shaw, only expressing the writer's ideas. One can even say that Browning's poems are the poetry of ideas. Browning's characters are Browning-esque, since they speak Browning's ideas. However, this love of ideas prevents him from being fully dramatic. We feel that perhaps his purpose in creating characters was to make them serve as a question, objectors, answerers in the great debate that proceeds throughout his poems. Broadly speaking, we might divide Browning's character into two categories: those in whom intellect is predominant, and those in whom lofty emotions are predominant. He is more successful in presenting women characters rather than men, yet he doesn't romantically idealize women. They are presented as acting and reacting in varied circumstances, pleasant and unpleasant. Like Shakespeare and Meredith, he represents them as possessing a finer and stronger intellect than men. In The Last Ride Together, as the lovers ride together, a sense of resignation comes over him. Everyone strives few or none succeed. And if it were otherwise, if the goal could be reached on earth, what care would one take for heaven? Then the peace which is in him absorbs the consciousness of reality. He fancies himself riding with the loved one until the end, and he asks himself if his destined heaven may not prove to be this. This poem is considered by many critics to be the noblest of all Browning's love poems. For dramatic intensity, for power, for its exhibition of what Mr. Raleigh has aptly termed Browning's tremendous concentration of his power in excluding the object world and its relations. It is a poem of unrequited love, in which there is nothing but the noblest resignation, a compliance with the decrees of fate, but with neither a shadow of disloyalty to the ideal, nor despair of the result of the dismissal of the lover's own soul's development. He may be deprived of his love, but the ideal is there in his heart, and no one can deprive him of that. This ideal shall be used to elevate and sublimate his desires, to expand his soul to the fruition of his boundless aspirations for human love. And so, as he knows his fate, since all his life seemed meant for, fails, his whole heart rises up to bless the woman to whom he gives back the hope she gave. He asks only its memory and her leave for one more last ride with him. Who knows but the world may end tonight? The force of the hour, the value of the quintessential moment as factors in the development of the soul, has never been set forth, even by Browning, with such startling power. The instant made eternity, till it transfigures the human in the man, till it becomes divine.